Hi guys, it's Sam and I'm back with another video for lawnfawn. Today I'm going to be using the new kanga-rrific stamps and dies, the kanga-rrific add-on stamps and dies, mermaid for you with that little rock, grassy borders, and the Peekaboo pop-up die set. As always, I'm starting my process by coloring my images with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I'm spritzing a little bit of water on the side, and then I am using browns to color my kangaroos. I'm using mid-brown, natural beige, and mustard. I'm starting by using my middle shade, which is mustard, a little bit of a slightly damp, mostly dry water brush to pull out the color, then back over it with my mid-brown, pulling that color out with my mustard color, and then blending it all together with the natural beige. That's how I color every single one of these kangaroos. I'm also adding pink cheeks with light carmine and pale orange. And as always, I am starting with my mid color, going to my darkest color, back to the mid color, and then pulling it all together, blending it all together with the lightest shade. And then a little bit of accent with the pink cheeks. I color all of these kangaroos the same way as I mentioned. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually coloring in when I'm blending it out and when I'm pulling the color out with the mid color. I am using a circular motion when I color with my zigs. You can kind of see it. I'm not just adding a straight line. I'm working the color together with the water brush. I'm pulling it out. Now, when I add the shadows with the darkest color, it is just kind of a straight line. But then as I pull it out, I'm blending it all together, little tight circles. And then with the final marker, natural beige, which my natural beige is getting so dry. I need a new one. If you ever wonder how you can tell that your Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers are getting dry, do they put color down when you use them? Do they blend out colors when you mix them with another color on the paper? Do they look like a old toothbrush that has not been used in a long time? That's how you can tell. Okay, I'm going to color these tufts of grass all the same way. I'm using May green, and yellow green. I'm using these same colors as well for the tops of the trees. I end up not using these greens. I'm sorry. I end up not using these leaves because, sorry, my cat is jumping all over me. I end up not using the grass because I end up coloring the ground in a warm sandy color. And I thought about adding the tufts of grass, but then I just ran out of room on my card front. You know, I usually stamp more than I need, but I'm saving the grass for another day and another card. And here I am using the same colors to color the tops of the trees. I forgot to mention I also use these colors for the tiny, tiny leaves on the flowers. And next I'm going to color the base of the trees. I am using different color browns than the kangaroos. I'm using the lightest color to color it all in with my water brush, darkest color along the shadowed areas, and then that light color again. I'm using sand, mocha, brown, and beige. And so here I am, I'm just using the sand color. I'm using a water brush to pull it out. The mocha brown in the shaded areas, back to the sand, and then a little bit of natural beige to pull it all out and blend it all together at the very end. That's how I color my images. When I move on to coloring the rocks, I am only using two colors. I'm using platinum brown and warm gray too. And also I'll be using the water brush more. I wanted just like a hint of color on these rocks, but as usual, when I color, I am all in. I love looking at people's cards when they color and it's a light whisper of a color and it's pastels. I can never stop myself. So as you can see, these grays on the rocks, they're pretty gray. I try to lighten them up with a little bit more water, but they end up pretty dark. But I really don't mind. It doesn't bother me. It's just something, you know, it's just something that I do. I'm using yellows to color in this caution sign for the jumping kangaroo. And I'm also using the same colors for the flower tops. I'm using mustard, golden yellow, and yellow. I always use mustard to shade my yellows because it adds a little bit of brown, and then that kind of accentuates the shadow of a yellow. Lastly, I'm coloring the salamanders. I'm using pale green, light blue, and turquoise green. Actually, it's not lastly, but we're getting there. I'm just using, these are so small, but I wanted to, you know, use all those three because those three colors make the perfect mint to me. And then I'm just using bright green for the stripes. And then I'm using, I didn't show, but I'm using the same markers for my kookaburra bird. I'm using the brown from the kangaroos and the gray from the rocks for the beak. And then I forgot I didn't color this little baby kangaroo. And little cheeks for all these animals, and that's it. I've colored all the images. I will add some details with the white gel pen, but other than that, these little guys are ready to be die cut. Okay, next we're going to move on to the meat of the card, the nitty gritty. I'm using my Peekaboo, my Peekaboo pop-up dies. I'm cutting it one time for the card base, and then I cut it 2 more times. One time for this hill, which once I die cut it with the big rectangle, I run it through my die cutting machine again with the stitched hill that comes with that set. I cut it a 3rd time with the big rectangle, and then I used my Grassy borders die to cut along an edge. So I cut 3 pieces of paper with my Peekaboo pop-up main background. Next, I die cut using this smallest little triangle mechanism. I used white cardstock, and I also die cut it out with acetate because I want the little kangaroo to show up without being able to see the movement. I want it to look like he's magically hopping across the card. I am going to start by ink blending my background of my card. I'm using Distress inks in Blueprint Sketch, Mermaid Lagoon, and Salvage Patina, and then I do use a little Wilted Violet on top to add a little extra shading. I wish I could ink blend at this speed. However, I cannot. So I have sped it up because otherwise it is kind of monotonous. I don't need to ink blend all the way to the edge because it will be covered up by the hills and the grass. And at this point, I thought I was going to do splatters on the sky. So I'm like, it doesn't need to be perfect. I end up not doing that. But it's fine. Then I'm going to ink blend the hills and the grass, and I wanted to make it a little savanna-ish, so I'm using browns and yellows. I'm using fossilized amber for the hill, and then I don't use any other color. There's no ombre blending here. It's literally just fossilized amber. For the grass, I'm using vintage photo on the bottom, and then fossilized amber on top. This one was a little bit hard to ink blend because it kept wanting to bend as I was blending, but we got through it. We survived. Next, I'm going to be splattering the white acrylic ink, water, and the same ink colors onto my hillside to give it kind of a sandy, hilly type look. And once I set that aside to dry, I'm going to heat emboss the sentiment onto the top of my head. No, just kidding. The top of my card base. I'm heat embossing in white, and you definitely want to do this step before you put the card together to avoid any mishaps. So as you can see, my score lines on my base of my card are on the left. You want to fold these into a mountain shape. You always want the base of the card for Peekaboo pop-ups to have the mountain shape. So I'm just folding it using my bone folder to make sure it's nice and crisp. And as you can see, it goes up. It goes up there at the edge. So it's kind of like a mountain. And then my grassy parts are, they have the score lines on the right side of the paper. And those you want to fold into a valley shape. So you want it to be the opposite of what you just did. So I'm folding them down, and as you will be able to see when I'm done, they make a kind of divot. And I'm folding them both the same way because they will layer on top of each other. And as you can see, they go down. It doesn't make a mountain. It goes down. So, okay, so far so good. We've got opposites. The bottom one is a mountain. The tops are valleys. Now I'm going to attach the grass to the hill just using foam tape. Nope, not foam tape, adhesive. And I am going to attach the hills to the background. I'm just putting adhesive on that tiny line before our first fold on the right and attaching it to the card, and then it folds over, and basically your card's done. We're done. Bye. Just kidding. But you can see already that it's ready to work. This card is ready to work. So I'm folding it over the top hills like a book. Now I'm taking the smallest triangle mechanism that we had die cut in white, and I'm folding the triangles on the score lines away from me. And I'm going to use my bone folder to just reinforce that fold. And I'm going to fold the second triangle away from me. And that small triangle is where we're going to put our adhesive, just that tiny little bit. So I'm just using my roller tape and a little tiny dab of glue. Now I'm also going to trim this off because I don't want the white part to show when I do it. So I'm going to attach my acetate to the mechanism that we just trimmed with the white, so that when we do our Peekaboo pop-up, it only shows the acetate, and it's like magic. I'm just using a little bit more Rolly glue, a tiny dab of the lawnfawn glue, and now I'm going to attach it to my card. I'm lining up that little triangle just a little bit below the hill and on the edge of the folded part, and now I'm going to test it out, and boop, it works, but you can see a little bit of white still, and I don't want that white there. So what I do is I take off the acetate, I trim down even more white, and I just reattach the acetate right on top and fold over the triangles again. And now I'm going to test it one more time, and magic, no white tabs showing, just the acetate. Perfect. Now we can create our card and put the rest of our images there. This is basically what the card is going to look like. I've already attached the kangaroo on the acetate. I apologize. I thought I was recording and I was not. Now I'm not using any foam tape. You know me, I am 100% foam tape queen. I love using foam tape. But because this card already has natural dimension, I didn't use any. And I'm just using the lawnfawn jumbo glue tube to attach all my images and trimming off anything that hangs off except for the little kookaburra. And as you can see, at first, his little tail got caught, but now it's perfect. He's so cute. He's just hopping. I love that he's actually hopping with all these kangaroos. I think this card turned out so fun. I could play with this all day. I'm going to have a hard time giving it to the sender or the recipient because I'm just going to want to play with it. These are so easy to make. You can make a variety of cards. And I just love how this kangaroo is with all his kangaroo friends just hopping up. He's just hopping up. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Please be sure to check out the card up on the Lawnfawn blog and have a great day. Bye.